I was feeling something for a while, and it took me a while to get in. And I was like, no, like, I don't want to hear that word. I don't want to hear the C word. So despite saying that, I was still doing, Dr. Google, and I kept seeing testicular cancer come up. And I did not want to go to the doctor and find out that that was the case. So I put it off. So that was when I knew that I needed to go be seen, because I knew that something was going on. Yeah, I'm Steven. I live in Virginia Beach, Virginia. I've lived here my whole life. I'm 28 years old. I went to school for media production, so that maybe we'll kind of talk about like the podcast that I do for Testicular Cancer Awareness. But I mean, that's kind of what I do full time. I like to golf because, as you know, testicular cancer, I like to lose balls as often as I can. So, so I mean, that's a little bit about me. So I don't know the exact date that things started. I know it was sometime in 2016. 2016, I would have been 21 and then turned 22. So I noticed that like my left testicle was getting increasingly tender and like slowly getting bigger. And the girl I was dating at the time like really wanted me to go to the doctor because her dad had passed away from esophageal cancer. And she was saying, like, had he been checked out earlier, he might have been able to live longer. And I was like, no, like, I don't want to hear that word. I don't want to hear the C word. So despite saying that, I was still doing, Dr. Google, and I kept seeing testicular cancer come up, and I did not want to go to the doctor and find out that that was the case. So I put it off. It never got like massive. You hear stories about people who have grapefruit sized testicles. Luckily that was not me. I probably would have been seen sooner if it was. But it was like the spring of 2019 that I noticed like a lump in my back, and I was driving home from work and I felt like, my shirt was bunched up. So I reached back to kind of fix it, and it wasn't my shirt. And I knew from like looking at the internet on Dr. Google and, peripherally seeing these things that when it spreads to the back or the retroperitoneum. So that was when I knew that I needed to go be seen, because I knew that something was going on. So I went to my primary care physician, and she did a testicular exam, and she said, I do feel a little like hardness in the back. She said it might be epididymitis, and she gave me antibiotics for that. But she said, just to be safe, I'm going to order an ultrasound. So that was May 31st of 2019. So as I mentioned, I work in media video production. So my production company was having its meeting for the biggest job that we had had to date. And my doctor called me when I was in that meeting, and she said, Steven, they found a mass. I'm going to refer you to urology. So from there, I went to the urologist on June 10th. So I had just turned 25 on the 7th. And the urologist walked in the door, and he pretty much immediately said, 9 times out of 10, when we find a mass like this, it's testicular cancer. And he said, I have an opening tomorrow at noon. If you want to, if your insurance is accepted at the hospital where I'm going to be tomorrow, I can take it out tomorrow. And then he basically just as a formality did like the blood work for the tumor markers and stuff, and scheduled the orchiectomy. So the orchiectomy is the removal of the testicle. So he didn't really, that I remember, go over like what the surgery would entail or what it would look like, but they cut like in your pubic area, not in your scrotum, and they pull the testicle out that way. So it was a pretty easy surgery. I know that the Urology of Virginia did their pathology, and then we sent it to Sloan Kettering, and they came back with close but not exact, which could just be they were looking at a different sample of it. But it was non-seminoma, so that means it was mixed types of cancer. After the orchiectomy, they scheduled the sperm banking. That was one of the things that was scariest for me. Like, I'd always wanted to kind of be the T-ball coach and stuff. So that was like that, and losing my hair were the big things that I was most afraid of. So banking it was like a no-brainer for me. Um, Hopefully I don't have to use it. There is a risk with the RPLND to have a side effect where they accidentally, or maybe just out of necessity, cut the nerve that controls the ejaculatory function. So that can cause retrograde ejaculation, and then it's going to be more difficult to conceive naturally. I hope I don't need to use my banked sperm. I think everything is working as it should now, but we'll see how it goes. In talking to the doctors that I've talked to on the podcast, I don't know that the norm is to like bank sperm before orchiectomy. I know that they like to kind of turn around and do the orchiectomy kind of quick. I would say advocate for banking sperm as early as possible. Like definitely don't let them start chemo before you've banked sperm, which they should be pretty good about. Yeah. So I had to do, because the mass in my retroperitoneum, I had to do 4 rounds of etoposide and cisplatin, which is known as 4 times EP. And that was it was like 1 week on and then 2 or 3 weeks off, depending on my white blood cell counts, and then another week and then a break. So I had chemo from July 15th to October 4th. Before chemo started, they do like the chemo debriefing or chemo teaching. I don't remember exactly what they called it, but they went over basically everything that could happen. And after the first week, I was like, wow, that was like not anything near what they had talked about. Like it wasn't nearly that bad, but they did say that it compounded. So each week that went on got tougher and tougher. I mean, the first week, the first like side effect that I had was just uncontrollable hiccups. And I tried like drinking water. I tried everything that I could find. And I found on Google, it said if you drink water from the opposite side of the cup, that it would work. So I don't know that that is what did it, but they stopped after that. So that was good. And then I didn't throw up until the last week. I definitely was nauseous the whole time. And they advised like to take the Zofran that they prescribed me. I took it in the morning, and then I took it at night. And then whatever they gave me daily helped with the nausea. Yeah. So after chemo, I had the post-chemo CT scan, and it showed that the mass in my retroperitoneum had shrunk, but it wasn't shrunk small enough to like completely rule out that everything was gone. So my doctor called Dr. Clint Carey at Indiana University, who's one of the top guys in the United States for the retroperitoneal lymph node dissection. So they got me on the schedule at IU for the RPLND, and I had an RPLND on November 7th, 2019. And luckily, Dr. Carey called me with the pathology, and what was remaining was just scar tissue from the dead cancer. But there's no way to know that until it's pathologized, because I believe, I'm not a doctor, but I believe that teratoma does not show up in blood work. So they could have done all the blood work that they wanted, and they wouldn't have known that it was scar tissue. I just wanted it to be done. And I trusted my doctors. And I mean, what I told Dr. Carey before my surgery, I said, I'm just going to lay here and let you do the hard work. So I was just along for the ride. I was very thankful that my parents kind of, I was still 25, so I was on their insurance. They kind of did the brunt of the worrying for me. And I just rode the roller coaster. The support is crucial to this. And yeah, I'm super thankful that my parents and my grandparents and my aunts and uncles and all my work people, they all put up with me talking about my testicles the whole time. So I think them just being like a sounding board for whatever dark humor I had, and then being able to do all the worrying for me kind of made the journey a lot easier for me. Yeah. I mean, so even like after I'd been through chemo and everything, and my work was super supportive, and everybody at work was really helpful. Right before my RPLND, I sent an email to HR just to send out to everybody, like thanking them for the support. And I put in there, thanks for allowing me to joke about my testicular cancer. And even then they took out the word testicular, which, like 6 months later when I returned, I emailed the HR lady and I was like, hey, like, what's up with that? And she said, well, some people could find it offensive. And I said, well, I'm the one that had it and I'm offended that you took it out. So, people are still not talking about it as much as they should be. But I mean, to be honest, from then until now, I think I still kind of feel numb to it. Like, as a survivor, like recurrence is one of the things that everybody is afraid of. And I just recently had another ultrasound because I thought I was having a pain in my remaining testicle. And when they were doing it, they were like, does that hurt? Does that hurt? And I was like, it doesn't hurt, but it doesn't not hurt. Like, I think I'm just numb to the feeling and PTSD. So yeah, I mean, scanxiety is a real thing. And April is Testicular Cancer Awareness Month. And I say that I'm very aware. So, even though I talk about testicular cancer all the time, like April gets me, and the time for my scans, like I really start feeling like, oh, is that lump back in my back? But I think it's just my mind playing tricks on me. But it's important to get checked out if you feel things. Like I just had another ultrasound last week, and luckily it was all good. But yeah, things, it definitely messes with your head a lot. And before blood work, you get nervous, all that. I mean, for people who are at like the beginning stage of this and maybe they feel something is wrong and they haven't yet been seen, I would say just go be seen. Like worst case, the doctor feels you're nuts and it's an awkward situation for you. It might feel awkward, but it's not. I mean, they do that all the time. But early detection is going to save lives. I mean, it's not going to save every life, but it's going to save you from at least having further metastasis. You can catch it early. It won't spread to the retroperitoneum like me if you catch it when it's in the testicle. So, early detection is really important. And there are resources online to show like how to do the self-exam. And, the self-exam is really just not to find something like on the first try, but to familiarize yourself with what your normal is. And then when if you find something that is not normal, then right away that you got to go be seen. I would advise to go to what they call a high volume center. So, there's only so many urologists in the world or in the country, and there's only so many testicular cancer cases. I mean, even fewer than there are urologists. So they might not see testicular cancer all the time, and do an RPLND even less. So going somewhere that, like where I went at IU, where Dr. Carey is one of the best guys in the country to do it. I've always tried to turn negatives into positives. So from there, like I knew that I wanted to make it my mission to not like be down in the dumps about it and to spread awareness because, I never talked about testicles before my diagnosis. And I think since then I've talked, about it more than people are comfortable hearing. So I just knew that I wanted to spread the word and use my story, however far my story went, to spread awareness. So like, I think it was the first time I went to my oncologist, and he was like, this is something that's not really talked about. I think I talked to him about, I did like a vlog, like not a couple days, like 17 days after my orchiectomy, maybe I went go-karting and we talked about that. And he was like, if you keep up those vlogs, then people might find it and start talking about it. So I did that kind of thing. I wanted to shave my head on my own accord before I lost it from chemo. So I did like a fundraiser for Testicular Cancer Awareness Foundation. And I had connections to one of my action sports heroes, Travis Pastrana, through a mutual friend. So I said, if I raise X amount of dollars, will Travis shave my head? And he's just up in Annapolis, Maryland. So it wasn't a far drive. And he agreed. And I think I raised 2 or 3 times the amount in just a couple hours. So we went up to Maryland and he shaved my head. And then, in survivorship, I've been on the board of the Testicular Cancer Awareness Foundation and now do this podcast. So it's been fun. I think the people who are finding like the podcasts and stuff are ones who are searching specifically for testicular cancer. But I think even that, like, there are some guys that don't want to share their stories, and that's okay. But the fact that they can see that there are people talking about it and it's not like something they need to stay in the shadows about, maybe one day they'll feel comfortable talking about it, but maybe right now is not the time. But just for them to see these stories, hear like other people that have been through it, and just know that they're not alone, I think is important. Having had testicular cancer, I don't think it was the worst thing to ever happen to me. Like, there's been so much good that's come out of it. Like, I'm doing things that I never would have done. For example, I just took a stand-up comedy class, and you know, in high school, people who knew me never would have thought that I would do something like that. But there are good things that can come out of this. Like, you have a new lease on life, and after sitting in the chemo chair for 4 to 6 hours a day, you wish you could be doing anything else. So I feel like I'm trying to live my life more to the fullest than I was before.